The world of cultivators was vast, yet its undercurrents were never still. A single feather plucked, a single beast disturbed, was enough to stir invisible tides across provinces and sects alike. Yet for Han Li, such ripples meant nothing. Once a matter was concluded, he turned his back without hesitation, leaving chaos grudges and fate itself to settle in his wake. If you enjoy my way of explaining and storytelling, don't forget to like and subscribe. It really motivates me to keep creating. Han Li sensed two overwhelming auras materialize at the mouth of the valley, pressing down like invisible mountains. Within the first fireball, a vague avian silhouette flickered, its outline distorted by roiling flames. As for the sphere of yellow radiance, it concealed a demon beast curled tightly upon itself. Its entire body was sheathed in a thick, rugged hide, the color of packed earth, wrinkled and folded into overlapping layers like natural armor. From within that bloated mass protruded a sharp, rat-like head and a long, slender tail. It was unmistakably a colossal demon-mouse variant. What kind of bizarre demon beast is that? Han Li asked, his brows knitting slightly. An armored earth dragon, Monarch Soul Divergence exclaimed in delight. An exceedingly rare spirit beast. It is famed for its peerless defenses and its uncanny ability to locate treasures. For it to appear before you, this is truly a stroke of fortune. So it's that creature, Han Li replied thoughtfully. No wonder it felt familiar. No sooner had he spoken than the two demon beasts surged forward, plunging into the valley's white mist one after the other, clearly intent on seizing the rainbow skirt grass growing below. Han Li responded without hesitation. A green formation plate appeared in his palm. With a sharp slap, it flared brilliantly, activating the outermost layers of the valley's restrictions. Light surged upward, instantly trapping the vast yang bird at the forefront. The yellow sphere followed close behind, but the moment it entered the mist, it was repelled, blocked completely by the activated formation. Caught off guard, the armored earth dragon roared in fury. Yellow light rippled violently across its body as it expanded to nearly 24 meters in length. Layer upon layer of grey armored plates emerged from its flesh, and in a blink, it curled into a massive sphere before slamming itself savagely into the barrier. A deafening explosion echoed through the valley as two outer layers of the restrictions shattered instantly. After a brief pause, the beast resumed its relentless assault, battering the remaining layers with brute force. That fleeting delay was more than enough for Han Li. After colliding with the restrictions, the vast yang bird shrieked and beat its wings violently, scattering scarlet fireballs in all directions. The flames tore through the mist, dispersing it to reveal the peach forest below, branches heavy with blossoms. With a sharp sweep of its eyes, the bird immediately spotted Han Li and the true source of its irresistible allure, the rainbow skirt grass. Though its intelligence was not fully developed, Han Li's undisguised mid-nascent soul cultivation sent a chill through the bird's instincts. It circled warily overhead, unwilling to descend too low, yet utterly incapable of resisting the temptation radiating from the spirit grass. As the bird hesitated, Han Li raised his hand without expression. A black talisman shot forth, transforming mid-air into a sinister, ghostly claw that lunged toward the vast yang bird. Startled, the bird reacted instantly. With a powerful flap of its wings, it unleashed more than 30 fist-sized fireballs. They detonated against the ghost claw in a violent cascade of flame, temporarily engulfing and suppressing the black light. Han Li's eyes flickered with surprise. In the next breath, his hands formed a swift incantation seal, and a pair of shimmering silver wings burst forth from his back. Thunder cracked. Han Li vanished without a trace, only to reappear in a flash of silver light 10 meters above the bird. His expression darkened as he clapped his hands together, then tore them apart. Two dense bolts of golden lightning erupted from his palms, splitting apart mid-air and weaving themselves into a vast, crackling net. Focused entirely on countering the ghost claw, the vast yang bird was utterly unprepared. The lightning net descended in an instant, trapping it beneath its roaring arcs. Panicked, the bird violently shook its body, shedding several feathers as it transformed into a blazing mass of fire, that slammed into the lightning net. Explosions rang out in rapid succession. A cold glint flashed in Han Li's eyes. With a flick of his wrist, he uttered a single word: restrain. The lightning net flared brilliantly, surging forward as it crushed through the flames. Bathed in blinding golden light, the vast yang bird was bound tightly within the dense web of lightning. No matter how violently it struggled, it could not move in the slightest, and it let out a shrill, defeated cry. A satisfied smile touched Han Li's lips just as a thunderous explosion rang out overhead. His expression shifted. Looking up sharply, he saw the armored earth dragon finally smash through the last layer of restrictions surrounding the valley. He had to admit it, his hastily arranged formations were far too fragile to hold back a seventh-grade demon beast. The dragon uncoiled from its armored sphere and charged into the valley. Upon spotting Han Li and the vast yang bird imprisoned in golden lightning, its small emerald eyes flickered nervously, unmistakable fear flashing across its face. Han Li's heart stirred. This armored earth dragon was far more intelligent than expected. Yet despite its fear, a trace of cunning gleamed in its eyes when it noticed the rainbow skirt grass below. In a blur of yellow light, it dove straight toward the ground. Stop it. Monarch Soul Divergence warned urgently. It can use earth evasion techniques. Once it reaches the ground, you won't be able to capture it. Relax, Han Li replied calmly, a faint smile curving his lips. I've already made preparations. When the dragon reached the ground and saw that the rainbow skirt grass stood seemingly unguarded, its eyes lit up with glee. It lunged forward, jaws wide. At that instant, 12 streaks of glittering icy chi burst forth from the ground surrounding the grass. Caught mid-air, the beast had no time to react. The icy chi struck home instantly, sealing it within a thick shell of frost. White light flickered across the earth, revealing 12 snow-white centipedes, each half a foot long, crawling forth as frigid mist streamed from their mandibles. Seeing this, Monarch Soul Divergence chuckled. So you stationed your centipedes here all along? I worried for nothing. Though the armored earth dragon was remarkably sturdy, it was no match for the combined frost ki of 12 six-winged frost centipedes. The success of the ambush came as no surprise. I placed them here as a precaution, Han Li said indifferently. I didn't expect they'd actually be used against an armored earth dragon. With that, his figure blurred, and he appeared behind the vast yang bird, his gaze fixed on the cluster of tail feathers trailing behind it. Smiling faintly, he spoke in a gentle tone. You should be intelligent enough to understand a few of my words. I have no intention of harming you. So tell me, will you release your tail feathers willingly, or should I tear them out myself? The vast yang bird clearly understood. Its body trembled violently as it let out a furious, resentful screech. Han Li's expression turned cold. He snorted softly, azure light gathering around his hand as he reached toward the bird's rear. Fear finally surfaced in the bird's eyes. Left with no other choice, it shook its body violently, shedding all of its tail feathers in a burst of crimson light. These feathers were deeply connected to its essence and blood vessels. Had they been forcibly removed, the damage would have been severe. By abandoning them willingly, it still suffered a significant loss of strength, but avoided catastrophic injury. Delight flickered across Han Li's face. He caught every feather neatly in his hand, then produced a jade box prepared in advance and swiftly placed them inside. After sealing it with several talismans, he carefully stored it within his pouch. With that done, he rested a hand atop the vast yang bird's head and sent a thread of spiritual power into it, rendering the beast unconscious. Smiling faintly, Han Li turned his attention toward the frozen armored earth dragon. Though trapped within thick ice, the beast remained conscious. Its small eyes brimmed with terror as Han Li's gaze fell upon it. Moments later, Han Li descended in a streak of azure light. A quarter of an hour later, a band of brilliant golden light streaked across the sky above the valley. It circled once before dissipating, revealing the old woman in purple robes who had previously been in the High Sun Palace's secret hall. At her side stood Fang Chu, his expression solemn as he suppressed his aura, striving to avoid drawing attention. By then, the restrictions shrouding the peach forest had vanished entirely. Beneath a blooming tree lay the vast yang bird unconscious, its tail feathers conspicuously missing. The old woman's expression shifted as she swept her spiritual sense over the scene. Upon discovering that the bird had merely suffered a loss of strength, her tension eased slightly. But when her gaze drifted lower and she noticed the bird's rear fury ignited within her heart. "Go and check the bird. See if you can wake it," she commanded coldly. Fangshu nodded repeatedly and hurried downward. Had it not been for the High Sun Palace's ancestor encountering him along the way, he would never have arrived so swiftly. Meanwhile, the old woman scanned her surroundings. After a brief pause, she closed her eyes and extended her spiritual sense, searching for the audacious culprit. Moments later, her eyes snapped open. Her expression darkened. She barked a quick order toward Fang Chu below, then shot off in a streak of golden light. Over 100 kilometers away, she intercepted a peculiar cultivator attempting to leave the mountain range. Her voice was icy as she spoke. "Well, well. If it isn't fellow Taoist Ma of the Devilwood sect, why aren't you cultivating peacefully at your sect? What business do you have sneaking into our Heaven Peak mountain range? Tell me, was the demon beast disturbance you're doing?" Before her stood a yellow-robed cultivator wearing a mask. Beneath it, his eyes glowed with an inhuman golden light. The masked cultivator let out a dry, humorless laugh. Though his tone carried a trace of apprehension, his words were steady. "Fellow Taoist son, you arrived with remarkable speed. Unfortunately, I fear you have mistaken me for someone else. I was merely pursuing a demon beast and accidentally strayed into your Heaven Peak mountain range. I too witnessed the unrest among the low-grade demon beasts and was attempting to determine its cause." Purple light surged across the old woman's face as she snorted coldly, her voice radiating authority. "Chasing a demon beast. Does fellow Taoist Ma truly believe I have grown senile? You are a mid-nascent soul cultivator, renowned throughout the empire for your movement techniques. What manner of demon beast could possibly drive you into our Heaven Peak mountain range? I have already searched an area spanning over 100 kilometers. Apart from you, I found no other cultivators capable of causing such a disturbance." "What disturbance?" the masked man replied, feigning surprise. "Could it be that the demon beast uproar harmed the High Sun Palace in some way? I have shown due respect to seniors of the late nascent soul stage, such as yourself. Yet I cannot help but feel that I am being wrongfully accused. While I may not be your equal, I am hardly defenseless. Several disciples in my sect know that I entered this mountain range. I advise fellow Taoist son to think carefully before provoking a conflict between the righteous and devilish Tao." Though his words carried caution, his resolve was unmistakable. A sharp golden gleam flared within his eyes. The old woman narrowed her gaze. After a long silence, she asked icily, "You truly had no hand in this?" Hearing this, the masked cultivator visibly relaxed. He lowered his posture slightly, adopting a more deferential stance. "If fellow Taoist son requires it, I am willing to swear a devil heart oath. But truthfully, I still do not know what has happened to your sect." The tension on the old woman's face eased. "There is no need for an oath. It is unlikely that you are responsible. Given your standing within the Devilwood sect, you would not stoop to such disgraceful conduct. Moreover, I have never heard that you possess techniques capable of attracting demon beasts. Still, since you ventured into our Heaven Peak mountain range in pursuit of one, it must be something extraordinary. Why don't you enlighten me?" Realizing that only honesty would clear his suspicions, the masked cultivator hurriedly explained. "The demon beast is indeed rare, though it likely pales in comparison to your sect's vast yang bird. It was an armored earth dragon that had only recently advanced to grade 7. I discovered it in a mountain range of the neighboring province. The creature was exceptionally cunning and highly proficient in earth movement techniques. I pursued it for nearly an entire week before arriving here." "A grade 7 armored earth dragon," the old woman exclaimed, her composure momentarily shattered. "That is indeed an extraordinarily rare beast, especially at such a level. No wonder fellow Taoist Ma acted so boldly. Now that you are here, does that mean you have already captured it? I have long heard of the beast's reputation, yet I have never seen one with my own eyes. Might I be fortunate enough to take a look? A trace of regret surfaced in the masked cultivator's voice. I fear I must disappoint you, fellow Taoist son. During the demon beast upheaval, my secret tracking technique abruptly failed, and I lost all traces of it. However, a sharp glint flashed in the old woman's eyes. While searching for the beast, I saw a streak of azure light tear through the heavens. It was exceedingly fast and did not seem to belong to a cultivator of your palace. I suspect that person had something to do with the disturbance. I intended to pursue them and uncover the truth, but their speed was too great. I lost sight of them almost immediately. Shortly after fellow Taoist's son arrived, he let out a helpless wry chuckle. The old woman's expression shifted. An azure streak. And you say it was here just moments ago. Which direction did it head? The masked cultivator blinked once. Before answering calmly, it flew out of the mountain range. With your abilities, you should still be able to pursue it. With a fresh lead in hand, she immediately said, "Many thanks, fellow Taoist Ma. I will investigate this personally. And since the armored earth dragon has vanished, you would do well to leave the mountain range as well. Our sects follow opposing paths and maintain their own territories. When I return, I do not wish to see you lingering here." Without another word, she shot off in a streak of golden light. Watching her disappear into the horizon, the masked cultivator sneered. So the rumors were true. That old witch is every bit as troublesome as they say. The moment she obtained the information she wanted, she turned hostile. Our sects are at odds. She simply wants the armored earth dragon for herself. His eyes flickered with calculation. If my senses are correct, that azure streak must be connected to the dragon's disappearance. And that speed, it was no slower than a late nascent soul cultivator's. Chasing them down won't be easy. Judging by how flustered she appeared upon arrival, that other cultivator must have caused the High Sun Palace quite a headache. A satisfied smile crept across his lips. What a delightful turn of events! Lowering his gaze, he looked at the spirit beast pouch hanging from his waist and murmured, "Even though I failed to capture the armored earth dragon, obtaining a black-blood spider makes this trip worthwhile." The dragon's appearance was rather convenient for that person. It must have been driven mad by some unknown method. He suddenly raised his head, eyes narrowing. No, this was undoubtedly a technique for attracting demon beasts. I must report this to Senior Marshal Brother Mu at once. After casting one final glance around, green light enveloped his body as he tore through the skies and vanished. The old woman surnamed Sun flew for nearly half a day, sweeping her spiritual sense across thousands of kilometers. Yet she discovered nothing amiss. Left with no choice, she returned and swiftly suppressed all information regarding the incident. Should the other sects learn of it, the High Sun Palace would become a laughingstock. Fortunately, the culprit had only taken the vast yang bird's tail feathers rather than killing it outright. Given 30 years and sufficient spirit medicines, the bird would eventually recover its strength. Still, the humiliation gnawed at her. In secret, she dispatched a small group of elite disciples to investigate whether any nascent soul stage eccentrics were seeking to refine treasures using the vast yang bird's feathers. Beyond revenge, she coveted the method used to attract demon beasts. If she could obtain it, taming spirit beasts or harvesting their cores would become effortless. Naturally, she was not alone in this ambition. The Devilwood sect likewise mobilized their forces, sending out numerous disciples to search for unfamiliar nascent soul cultivators appearing near Long Province. The covert movements of these two superpowers sent ripples of fear through the region. The more perceptive clans and sects sensed that the delicate balance was on the verge of collapse, and that war between the two great sects might soon erupt. As lesser factions panicked, forming alliances or retreating altogether, a palpable tension settled over the entirety of Long Province. Of course, Han Li had no inkling that his actions had set such events in motion. At that moment, he had constructed a temporary stone chamber atop an unnamed mountain. calmly examining his spoils, the 5 nearly illusory flaming feathers. In an excellent mood, Monarch Soul Divergence remarked casually, "The woman who pursued you at the end should have been a late nascent soul cultivator of the High Sun Palace. Though her cultivation was formidable, her spiritual sense was mediocre. Once you suppressed your aura, she failed to detect you. Otherwise, things could have become troublesome." Hanli chuckled softly. "At worst, I could have used blood shadow evasion once. I doubt I would encounter another sacred beast incarnation in this world. Still, I had no choice but to hide. That old woman's movement technique was faster than mine." "Indeed. And it seems the risks you took have paid off handsomely," Monarch Soul Divergence said with satisfaction. "Not only did you obtain these flame feathers, but you also captured a rare armored earth dragon. If you manage to tame it, you will have countless opportunities to obtain otherworldly treasures in the future." "That's true," Hanli replied. "But it is a fully grown demon beast. Taming it won't be easy. Success will depend largely on luck." "That is of little concern," Monarch Soul Divergence said calmly. "Taming mature demon beasts is not as difficult as one might think, especially those with high intelligence." Hanli raised an eyebrow, a hint of surprise crossing his face. "Oh, is that so? You will see soon enough. From its behavior, this armored earth dragon should not be particularly difficult to tame." "I hope so," Hanli laughed lightly. "Still, I should first grind down its temper and wait for the right moment. For now, I'll deal with these flame feathers, then head to the Jin capital's trade fair. It's time I see what the greatest city of the Jin Empire truly looks like." "I have visited the Jin capital once before," Monarch Soul Divergence reminisced. "Though it was a city of mortals, it was imposing and far from ordinary." "That only makes me more eager," Hanli said calmly. "We're not too far away. Refining the feathers should take only a day. 3 months will be more than enough time to arrive." With a flash of azure light, 4 of the feathers vanished without a trace. Hanli flicked the remaining feather into the air and exhaled a cloud of azure nascent flame. Instantly the feather ignited, blooming with a dazzling fusion of blue and crimson light. He then closed his eyes, sat cross-legged, formed an incantation seal with his hands, and sank into deep meditation. A day later, Hanli emerged from the stone chamber and departed the nameless mountain, setting his course toward the eastern half of the Jin Empire, where the greatest mortal city of the realm was located. The Jin capital, with ample time remaining before the trade fair, Hanli deliberately restrained his speed, flying no faster than an ordinary core formation cultivator in order to avoid drawing suspicion. Before long, he passed beyond Long Province without incident and entered the neighboring territory. Only then did he take out the wind-riding chariot, transforming into a streak of white light as he sped away at tremendous velocity. As he traveled, Hanli faintly released the aura of a nascent soul cultivator. The few low-grade cultiv_toggle he encountered along the way immediately sensed the disparity in strength and respectfully kept their distance. A month later, Hanli arrived in Jinjiang Province, which bordered the Jin capital. He put away the wind-riding chariot once more, again suppressing both his speed and aura. After all, this was the heartland of the great Jin Empire. High-grade cultivators were plentiful here, and he had no desire to attract unnecessary attention. 2 weeks later, Hanli appeared dressed in azure Confucian robes, seated atop a battered wooden cart pulled by a sickly old horse. At the moment he sat at the front of the rickety cart, his body swaying gently with its uneven motion. His eyes were half-lidded, as though he were dozing. In truth, he was secretly refining a soul snow pill he had taken several days earlier. Since emerging from the spatial pocket in Devil Fall Valley, he had already consumed over a dozen such pills. True to its reputation as an ancient medicinal treasure, the pill had yielded remarkable effects. Hanli could clearly sense that the purity of the celestial ice flames and the glacial chi of the six-winged frost, centipedes he had refined earlier, had increased significantly. Even the faint impurities lingering within the purple apex flames were slowly being eradicated, causing their might to rise steadily. It was only unfortunate that the pill was exceedingly difficult to refine. Each one required 3 to 4 months to fully assimilate, leaving Han Li somewhat disappointed. If he had been able to refine one pill per month, then within a century, his purple apex flames might have reached the legendary realm capable of sealing 1,000 kilometers of land in ice. Even so, the purple apex flames in their current state were already unrivaled among the peak techniques of both the devilish and righteous Tao. There seemed to be no known ability capable of truly suppressing them. As for why Han Li chose to travel by such an unassuming mortal carriage, it stemmed from the unique status of the Jin capital. As the imperial capital of the mortal world, the great Jin cultivation realm observed an unwritten rule within 500 kilometers of the Jin capital. Combat and flight were forbidden. This rule symbolized a measure of respect toward the imperial authority, reflecting the delicate interdependence between cultivators and mortals in Great Jin. That said, nascent soul and even core formation cultivators proficient in evasion techniques often turned a blind eye to this restriction. After all, the patrols responsible for enforcing this rule were usually wandering cultivators employed by the imperial court, and their cultivation was rarely impressive. So long as no one brazenly flew at low altitude in plain sight or caused a disturbance, violations were often overlooked. Han Li himself regarded this rule with indifference. However, having ample time and wishing to complete the refinement of a soul snow pill, he descended to a small village, roughly 100 kilometers from the capital, purchased an old horse and cart, and made his way forward at a leisurely pace. Along the road, he encountered several low-grade cultivators traveling toward the capital by horseback or carriage. Unwilling to invite trouble, Han Li completely suppressed his spiritual power, appearing no different from an ordinary mortal. As a result, none of them paid him any mind. Because his cart moved slowly, he was overtaken by more than 10 separate caravans. Han Li remained unconcerned, focusing entirely on refining the soul snow pill until a distant rumble of thunderous hooves reached his ears. His expression unchanged, Han Li opened his eyes and lightly tugged on the reins. The old horse obediently drew the cart to the side of the road. Turning his head lazily, Han Li saw a massive cloud of dust surging from behind. Banners fluttered within it, exuding an imposing presence. As the dust cloud drew closer, silver-armored cavalrymen emerged into view. Each soldier bore a bow across his back and a saber at his waist, their armor dulled by wear and weather. At their head rode a middle-aged man clad in embroidered robes, a longsword hanging at his side. A large banner rose from his back, emblazoned with a single bold character, King. At the center of the formation were several jade carriages, faintly glowing with spiritual light. They were pulled swiftly by fine steeds, yet remained perfectly steady despite the speed. Magic tools. Han Li's eyes widened slightly in surprise. Sweeping his spiritual sense over them, he discovered that most of the carriages were filled with luggage. Only one carried the faint aura of cultivators. Though weak, such an aura was unexpected among an entourage of mortal soldiers. Han Li tightened the reins once more, bringing his cart to a full halt to yield the road. The cavalry unit numbered nearly 400. As they thundered past, the gale of wind generated by their momentum rocked Han Li's cart violently. His gaze flickered as he noticed the baleful qi clinging to each soldier, evidence of countless battles. These were no ordinary city guards, but hardened frontier troops who had survived blood-soaked clashes. He recalled that the southeastern and northwestern borders of Great Jin were plagued by hostile civilizations, where mortal armies frequently engaged in brutal warfare. Only soldiers forged in such chaos carried this kind of aura. Just as this thought crossed his mind, the jade carriages passed by. From one narrow window, someone happened to glimpse Han Li and let out a small cry of surprise. Han Li raised his head, slightly startled by the reaction, and caught sight of a pair of eyes that seemed faintly familiar. But before he could place them, the convoy had already disappeared into the distance. After a moment of contemplation, Han Li shook his head, abandoning the thought of probing the carriage with his spiritual sense. Simple isolation restrictions were placed upon it, and any attempt to pry would surely alert those inside. Moreover, the cultivators within were only at the qi condensation stage, not worth the trouble. Once the cavalry had vanished, Han Li urged his cart back onto the road. After traveling another 5 kilometers, he arrived at a crossroads. Beside the road stood a lush forest, and scattered along its edge were several simple tea shops. Numerous carriages were parked nearby, their occupants resting and taking refreshments. This was the final stop before entering the Jin capital. Nearly all travelers paused here to recover. Han Li's gaze swept over the area, and he noticed that the silver-armored cavalry had dismounted and were resting near the forest. The jade carriages had also halted, though one stood open and empty. The embroidered-robed middle-aged man was nowhere to be seen. Han Li frowned and unconsciously extended his spiritual sense across the nearby tea shops. Moments later, he urged his horse forward again. But just then, a soldier stepped out and blocked his cart. The cavalryman saluted and asked evenly, "Young sir, is your surname Han?" "That is correct," Han Li replied calmly. "Do you require something?" "In that case, my clan's young mistress wishes to invite young Sir Han to share a cup of tea." Recalling the pair of familiar eyes from the jade carriage, Han Li pondered briefly before nodding. "Your young mistress. Very well. This way, please." The soldier gestured toward a tea shop by the forest, while 2 others stepped forward to tend to Han Li's cart. Moments later, Han Li entered the shop and found 3 people seated inside. The man was none other than the embroidered-robed middle-aged commander from earlier, his long beard well kept, his bearing calm yet commanding. Beside him sat 2 young women cultivators at the 7th and 5th layers of qi condensation respectively. The man remained silent as Han Li entered. The 2 women exchanged glances. The one with lower cultivation bit her lip before speaking with barely contained joy. "Brother Han, it's been many years. I never imagined we would meet again. I will never forget the kindness you showed me when you guided my cultivation." Han Li paused, then smiled warmly. "So it was young Miss Cao. What a coincidence. I hope you weren't offended by my sudden departure back then." She was Cao Mengrong, the daughter of a county magistrate whom Han Li had encountered when he first entered Great Jin years ago. Senior Han must have had pressing matters at the time. "How could I blame you?" she replied quickly. "Ah, right, I should introduce you. This is Senior Marshal's sister Wang. She cared for me while I was still in the sect. We are as close as blood sisters. And this is her uncle, an illustrious general renowned as a pillar of the Southern Empire. He has received orders to attend an audience with the Emperor." That's all for today's content. See you in the next part. Support me by becoming a member. It will give me more motivation. Thank you so much.